from children. Name the 4 seasons. Salt, pepper, mustard, and vinegar. Explain one of the processes by which water can be made safe to drink. Flirtation makes water safe to drink because it removes large pollutants like grit, sand, dead sheep, and canoeist. How is dew formed? The sun shines down on the leaves and makes them sweat. And how can you delay milk from turning sour? Keep it in the cow. This is a true story. It is not a joke. Scientists wanted to find out what early childhood experiences, what learning we got, and how that affected us over the course of our lifetime. And so they took a baby and took it away from its mother, a baby bunny. And they put the baby bunny into the nest with a chicken that was hatching some eggs. And the reason they chose a chicken is because chickens will nurture other baby animals. I didn't know that until I read that. And the bunny grew up as a chicken. Now, I've heard the story about the eagle that grew up as a chicken, but I had not read this study about a bunny growing up as a chicken. The bunny learned to hop and it looked like a chicken. It scratched around for its food. At night, it would go in and roost, just like the chickens. It was happy being a chicken. Time goes by, and in bunny time, when the bunny was an adolescent, they took the bunny out of the chicken yard and took it back to be with bunnies. Now, you and I would think that the bunny would get it pretty quick. Hey, they look like me. But the bunny didn't do that. It didn't like the food that the bunnies ate. It didn't want to be near the bunnies. It went over in a corner and pined. Didn't eat. Didn't do anything. Finally, the scientists, having compassion in their hearts, took the bunny back to the chicken yard. And the bunny was happy. The bunny lived out its days in the chicken yard. So when that bunny was little, it was taught something about itself that isn't true. And the bigger question is, what have you and I been taught that isn't true? Maybe we weren't taken out and moved to a place we shouldn't be. Maybe where we were raised, maybe they didn't know any better and taught us what wasn't true. I'm starting a few lessons. Today's lesson is called The Architecture of Stillness, and it comes out of a book by Lenendra Carroll, and she's an author and maybe more famous because she has a daughter named Jewel, the poet-singer Jewel. So she wrote this book, and it's been about 10 years since she wrote this book. It's one of those that I think kind of got overlooked. I mean, I have hundreds of books to overlook. And I think many of you do too. In this book, it's called, and I almost don't want to tell you the name of the book because you're going to think it's something it's not. It's entitled The Architecture of All Abundance, Creating a Successful Life in the Material World. And given that, you'd think it's a prosperity book, but it's not. It is a book about how to live life and feel abundance. And this is a direct quote from the dedication. This book, like my life, is dedicated to the understanding of the divine excellence within each of us. Dedicated to the understanding of the divine excellence within each of us. When lived, uplifts our humanity and moves us beyond our current limitations and difficulties into the revolution of the soul and its certain transformation of our individual lives, our planet, and our species. And isn't that what we say that Unity of Melbourne is all about? Making a world that works for all. Recognizing the excellence, the divine excellence in each person. Buckminster Fuller says, we are all called to be architects of the future, of our future, not its victims. So we'll be using stuff out of this book as a roadmap. And where do we start? Where do all things start? All the processes that are spiritual start, where do they start? I'm not hearing anything. At the beginning. Within. Thinking. How about me? Me. Yes. All of those are true. Going back to the beginning, going back to our essence, going within, looking at what we think. It starts in the stillness. Stillness, and this is a quote, is the spring that all rivers flow from, and the ocean that all rivers flow back into. Stillness underlies all movement and informs all life. It is the vitality that creates us, surrounds us, and supports us. The source of stillness is the source of all creation. It is the essence in which we live and breathe and have our being. And as I read that sentence, it really, it was in my face because that's exactly what we teach. And I thought it was said so poetically and clearly. That when we're in the still place, we're in that ocean of all, the ocean of being. And there's many ways for us to go in and to meet the divine. There's meditation, prayer, nature, solitude, sacred writing, dance, ceremony, music, chanting, writing, gardening. And the method that we get to that place of stillness is not nearly as important as it is the repeated journey, the practice of going within. So this morning I'm going to teach you a specific type of stillness. And a type of stillness that has within it the ability to transform a situation. It has the ability to give you an insight that is beyond your rational mind. It's a place and a type of stillness that if you practice it, you can have a full knowing of something that you haven't known before. It's a method that's taught by our author of our book. Now I'm going to tell you the story of how she found this method. And I want you to hear her story. We just moved to Homer, Alaska. I liked our new house and my third grade class. It snows a lot more here, and I really like to play in it. So I've been rolling snowballs in the yard, making trails. I can't make them as big as my brothers, and I wish my brothers were here to help. Make giant ones and then lift them up on each other to make a snowman. Once they made one that was as tall as our house. I content myself with carving balls into different shapes. I go into the house and get a bucket of water and some crepe paper left over from Christmas. Outside again, I wet the crepe paper and press it on the snow forms. It leaves bright swaths of red and green color. I patiently wet and pat, wet and pat. My mittens get soggy. So what do third graders do? They take them off. Soon I have a red heart with white lace and a green duck with a red bill and feet. I'm pretty satisfied when I'm done, but my hands hurt. And as I look at them, they're swollen and puffy. In fact, they look kind of gray and waxy. And I go in the house to show my mom. Something must be wrong because she looks alarmed and she grabs me by the arm, bouncing me along beside her as she urgently drags me outside. She doesn't even put her coat on. What's wrong? Am I dying? If I die, how will they dig a hole to bury me? I wonder. The ground is too frozen. If I die, will I miss anyone? I imagine everyone cherishing my frozen red and green artistry until it sadly melts in the spring, leaving no trace of me behind. Mom breaks into my dark wondering by thrusting my hands down and scrubbing them with snow. First one and the other, back and forth, and it hurts. And I yelp and I jerk my hands away. But she pulls them again and she rubs, and I pull them away and she pulls them back, and I pull them away and she pulls them back. And she says, "Give me your hands, this is important." No, I cry, it hurts. I am holding them behind my back now so she can't get them. Nedra, Jewel, Carol, she says sharply, so that I know she means business. You have frostbite and it can be serious. It can damage the nerves so your hands ache all the time. You can even lose fingers. We have to rub them with the snow to help them. While she's telling me this, she is shaking with concern and frustration and from cold. No, I insist, it doesn't help. It doesn't. She tells me forcefully that it's what the doctors say to do for frostbite. The doctors don't know what to do. The doctors are wrong, I yell. And now she's upset. She straightens up and put her hands on her hips and said, "Well then, Miss Smarty Pants, if you know so much, you figure out what to do." Okay, I will. I will. Mom rolls her eyes and stomps into the house, and I stomp after her. I'm not usually so much trouble, but I'm feeling agitation here. I plunk down on the couch and I gaze at my hands. Mom's challenge to figure out what to do ricochets in my brain. I don't for a moment think that the doctors have the right idea. I am consumed with the thought that I can know what to do. Even though I'm only 9, it's my body. I think I can figure this out. What is the right thing to do? I know that the answer is somewhere near. I peer at my hands, wondering fervently what the answer is. And then something happens and I see what to do. I see it. My hands become shimmering matter. In them, I see little round things filled with liquid. I understand that the liquid has sort of become frozen, and that the walls of the little blobs are very fragile. And when they get rubbed hard, they can break. I understand that what needs to happen is for them to be warmed very slowly. And so quickly I place my hands in my armpits, but they begin to sting. Too hot, too fast, I realize. And I go to my mom. Mom, there are little round things in my hands, and I saw them. They're filled with liquid, and when they're frozen, their edges get fragile, and they leak fluid out and stuff like that. They need to be warmed slowly and gently. I put them in my armpit, but that was too hot. Mom looked at me oddly for a long moment. There are cells in your hands, she says thoughtfully, and then is quiet. And we stand in the kitchen with a clock ticking loudly. And she walks to the sink to get a drink, which is what she does when she's disturbed or she needs to think. And she turns from the sink and says, "Let's run some cool water in the sink and put your hands in it, and then we'll warm the water gradually." This is just the right idea. I can tell, and I excitedly push a chair over to the sink and climb up. I plunge my hands in the water, and slowly, Mom warms it. No stinging. Soon my hands soften, lose their puffiness, and return to their normal pinky flesh color. I don't have any more trouble with them hurting or anything. Mom says it's amazing, and Dad thinks it's pretty interesting too. It's her next sentence that got me. But the part I think is amazing is the part that they don't talk about. They sort of act like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. But they totally missed the point. There is a miracle here, and I needed to know something. I got quiet and I asked. I wondered about it, holding on fiercely to the question, no matter what, and it opened itself up to me. I came to know the answer. It just bubbled up from somewhere, from some place where all the answers are. We can know anything. It's all right here. We just have to ask. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Pretty amazing story. She goes on to say that having the question, knowing the question, is pretty important. That if you're just hanging out, you will get answers, but it may not be the answer you need. You really need to formulate your question. And she says you need to practice this process, and she made this system up. And we're going to do that system. We're just going to just actually do her process right as she writes it in a moment. But I want to talk about this because I think that all of us have had the experience where we have asked a question and gotten an answer. Can you think of a time for yourself when you have asked a question and got an answer? At the beginning, after Easter, for the next 2 weeks, I went to some minister retreats. I went one with the people on the East Coast and one with the ministers on the West Coast. They both claimed me, and I like being claimed. And we did a lot of relaxing and talking about ideas, just being idea people. And I like that. And we spent time just being in the silence. Just being in the silence. Being in the silence. And I got some answers that I needed. I also got an answer that I didn't act on. Any of you ever do that? Get an answer to something or a spirit nudge and you don't do something about it? Something kept coming to me, and I kept seeing a computer, and I kept seeing bills, just stacks of bills. I don't recommend this as your own, as a way for you to handle your personal finance, but I don't open bills. Maybe every 6 months I open them and stick them somewhere. I don't have many bills. And I have all of my bills paid automatically. You know, I go on there and I say, send American Express $100 a month. So, I kept getting that vision of bills. I kept having that knowing that I needed to pay attention. But I didn't pay attention. There were other things that were more interesting. I didn't pay attention. So, last week, I got a little envelope from American Express. You know that little flat one that looks funny? I shouldn't be getting anything from American Express. I paid them off in March. I stopped my automatic payment. I am done with American Express. So I think. In April, they charged me a service charge, you know, the annual fee. And the little slip of paper was to tell me that they're charging me $25 for not paying it. Now, had I done what my intuition told me to go on and check my balances, I would have seen that. But no, here I am all the time teaching you that everything you need to know is given to you. And I didn't listen. I firmly and totally believe that everything we need comes to us in some wonderful, spiritual, mysterious way. And I say mysterious because I believe, I've grown to believe that this thing I call God is energy, and my words and my thoughts about it are limited. And it's beyond what I can know. And so it's a great mystery. It works, and I can work it, but I have no clue. I don't take many phone calls from people who are selling things. In fact, I don't usually call them back. I had a message that a man called me, and I contemplated calling him back. I was nudged to call him back. I walked into the office and the phone rang, and I was over by the desk where the incoming call comes in, and it's got his name on it. And I answered the phone. Now, it's not unusual for me to answer the phone, but you see, it tells us who's calling, so if it's one of you, I'm happy to answer the phone. If it's a salesperson, I'm likely to let it go to message. Sorry, another truth you didn't know about me. But I am compelled to pick that phone up and talk to this person. And he was an insurance salesman. And his question to me was, does your insurance expire on June 1st? how does he know our insurance expires on June 1st? Talking about the church. And I said, yes, sir. He said, can I come by? It won't take but 3 minutes of your time. 3 minutes? Okay. So he comes by. In the meantime, I copy the policy, because they always want to see what you got before they're going to do anything else. I think that's kind of I always felt that was kind of cheating, but there. So he comes by. He says, there are some things about this policy you need to know. This policy, it starts on June 1st. All of their policies start on June 1st, and you are part of a pool. You are part of a Florida church pool. Well, I knew that. I recognized that. And he said, and right here on this page, it has a $30 million limit. And once it pays out the $30 million, you're no longer covered. I kind of remember that. He says, I will bring you a quote. And so he brings me back a quote. Someone that knows our church well, Bob knew, many of you know Bob, is selling insurance now. So I scan this quote in and I email all of it to Bob. Bob's the one that helped me pick out that first policy. And he calls me back. He says, Beth, that policy that you have is so inclusive, you just can't beat it. And I said, well, there was something that the guy said about it starting in June because that was hurricane season. And Bob said, oh. He said, well, you need to know when he said that probably has to do when it becomes payable. And so this insurance policy is completely due and payable, and they owe the whole policy amount on June 1st, because it says it becomes due and payable on the first day of hurricane season. Now, what that means is that you send them a payment and you finance it and pay it out over time. I'm sure some of you have done that. Well, your church does that. So, I'm telling Bobby, said, I'm not sure whether that's a problem or not. And I said, well, we're buying a new building. He said, stop. Enough said. Because I didn't know on property insurance for commercial buildings that once you sell the building, your policy doesn't go with you to the new building. You have to buy a new policy. Who knew? All because I found out all of this. And actually what he's going to do is he's going to quote liability separate from building, and all because I followed the nudge to pick up the phone to talk to a man named Bud. I didn't do that out of the goodness of my heart. I didn't do it because I normally answer the phone for salespeople. You get it? It was a spiritual thing, and Spirit took care of us even when I was trying not to. I was trying to avoid them. Spirit works. So we're going to try right now to do this process exactly the way that she's written it. And what I want you to know is that I would like for you to just let questions bubble up, and if you have a particular question you're interested in, something that's bothering you or something that you're trying to figure out, just kind of focus on that for a second. And what we know is that answer may or may not come in this moment. The system is called the dream machine, how to come to know. And so, I would invite you to, for the next few minutes, to be like a little child. to trust the process, to put your disbelief out of the way, to set it aside, to let yourself be innocent and open and receptive, inquisitive, and filled with wonder, knowing that you will always know your soul's voice by the quality of its love and peace. And so I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths and relax. And imagine that you are floating in a pond. It's a pond as big as the ocean. It is an ocean of being. An ocean of B-E-I-N-G, being. You are bathed in it. You can trust and relax into this ocean of being. There is nothing that is not in this ocean. It is the pure source of all that is. It has everything in it that is possible to know or feel or think or see. The whole wide world is in this ocean, and it is a safe and beautiful place. And you can just trust and relax. And slowly and easily let yourself sink down into this ocean of being. Breathing in the ocean of being is not a problem, so you don't need to worry about that. Slowly, slowly sink to the bottom. It's a lovely sandy bottom. And as you watch and you look, there are plants and fish and shells and rocks. Just sit and enjoy. Remember, it is a safe place. And then lean back and look up and see the surface far above you. It shimmers like a jewel in the sunlight. Begin to watch all the things that are floating by on the surface. Your thoughts, pictures of things, even people's faces. Just let it come and float by. What a peaceful place this is. Even if it's a storm raging above, you are safe down here in the ocean of being. You are safe. Even something that you're questioning or that is worrying you, or a decision you have to make, is up there. And down here in the ocean of being, you are safe. You are in the middle of all that is and all that you need to know. Realize how deeply peaceful you are. And notice that it is only on the surface where there is storm or disturbance. Notice that you're in a place of deep peace, a place of calm, where nothing up there can touch you. In the stillness, come to know that you are the love, you are the abundance, you are the peace, you are the wholeness, you are the answer that you long for, Because in this ocean of being, you are one with Source, the God of all things. Journey deeper into the silence, into the depths of being. Simply be in the silence, here and now. And now gently and easily, just float back up to the surface of the ocean of being. And return to this room. All is calm, all is well, and all is done. And so it is. Amen. I've been playing with this visualization.